Moving right along, our next speaker, our next tag team, we've got a fireside chat that's coming up with Charlie Bigham, but I'm going to say a few words about the person who's going to be drawing a few words out of him. Martha Keefe is founder and CEO of the personalised stationery brand Martha Brook. And she's a BIPC Business Ambassador. And just spending, that's worthy of a round of applause. And just spending like 5 minutes with you before and hearing the energy and all of that stuff. Thank you so much for all the work that you do as an ambassador here. And Martha is so passionate about helping entrepreneurs on their own entrepreneurial journey. She's also just this year, she's been very busy, set up the Business Secrets Club that already has over 75,000 followers.
Come on now.
You need to tell us how you're doing that. Can we give a very big warm round of applause to Martha Keefe? Thank you so much, Martha, for being with us. And Charlie Bigham.
Thank you, Martha.
Well, thank you for that incredible introduction. That was very kind. And I've got the great pleasure of introducing British entrepreneurial legend, I think we can say that, Charlie Bigham, of Charlie Bigham's fame. I'm sure you've all seen his prepared meals on the supermarket shelves. If not had one yourself, I'm a big fan of the fish pie and the paella.
Sorry, Martha.
Yes.
Naughty me. I mean, usually I'm running a little bit late, blame my Caribbean parents. I probably shouldn't say that. But there you go. We're actually running ahead of time. So I think we just need to speak to the audience for a little bit. Do forgive me for that. Got up here a little bit more early. So Rashid, come up here and join me. I thought we could just do a little bit of the room and see the people who are here. Anybody here? Because we do have people who, like Rashid is one of our delivery partners. And we have other delivery partners who do workshops here. And one of them is in the food business as well. I want to know who here is from the food business. Maybe you can just let us know. Raise your hand. Anybody here?
Anyone here
Not the food eating business, but the food business. A lady here in the white, maybe you can just say what your business is. Yeah. Oh, you're about to start, so you're in the right place. Awesome.
So tell us then, so I'm going to put you on the spot, my friend, because it's a great opportunity. So what's brought you here today, and what's the kind of business that you're wanting to get involved in?
Okay. Hi, my name's Farah. I'm a TV producer, and I'm looking to move into more sort of digital content. TV's not having its happiest day, let's say. So I'm looking at sort of branching out into digital content and making, I'm passionate about food, so I've been working on food programs in the last sort of 4 years or so. That's it, really.
Awesome. Anybody else doing the food business? Lady, gentleman, you pointing to the gent next to you? On the left-hand side. Got a food business? Don't be shy. This is your time.
Tell us your name and tell us why you're here.
Martha's got 70,000 people on the list. You might be able to connect with her.
Hi there. I'm Rob. I'm working on building something. I'm calling it Fuddle, and it's food business insofar as it's related to cookery. So it's not a product business, but it's helping people change how they approach cooking, and it actually relates to quite a lot of the trends from the Mintel talk, actually. So it's helping people have great control over how they're cooking, have great control over their own impact on the environment, but in doing so, not just saving waste and things like this, but actually getting more joy from the food they're cooking.
Awesome, thank you so much. Anybody else? Thank you for sharing that. Well, your friend was forced you into speaking, but thank you. But just behind you, Rashid, a lady. Oops, careful.
Well, that was nearly the first form.
We'll come back to you in
the trips and slips.
Thank you. Hi.
Food businesses only at the moment.
My name is Christian. I'm working on creating a business. It's a mobile application that is focused on reduce food waste.
Oh.
In my opinion, this is something necessary. I don't see that very often. And I think in the next months, I can probably implement it. But there's a lot of features that I'm learning now, and I'm trying to focus more on personalization so I can create an amazing user experience. And that's one of the things that I'm looking at. And as far as I know, there's no a market focus on it. So pretty much, I want to believe I'm creating something very, very unique. And the most data and the most information I can collect, like a day as today, is fundamental for me. So thanks so much for this event.
Maybe Charlie will have
taking one of the tours to find out about the BIPC. You're going to be taking a tour? Yeah, fantastic.
So maybe Charlie have a comment on that later. There was a lady at
Oh,
the front.
yeah.
Rashid,
there's
there was
somebody
this
at the
lady
front.
had her hand
Okay.
up on the front.
I feel like anyone remember, I'm going to age myself now, I was going to say anyone remember Challenge Annika, but...
You're taking it back.
Okay, you can't remember it.
On your left, lady right there.
Hi, my name is Yvonne, and I've got a small business. I make artisan jams, marmalades, chutneys, and stuff like that. Yeah, I have. Brought them along with me today. So yeah, that's what I do. It's a very, very, very small business. I've actually been, I feel like I've been forced into creating a business where it was just a hobby actually to start with. Yeah, so it's
Awesome. Thank you. Maybe two more. Got time for two more, and then back over to you, Martha.
Anybody else? Oh, you're left. Yeah, we'll let you do it.
Hi, my name is Gülay, and I'm actually a textile designer, but I love baking and making lots of different recipes. So as a smoothie lover, I find it difficult to consume it in the winter times. Somehow it's very cold. So I came out with this really nice and hot smoothie. And it's vegan. It's basically free from almost everything. It's quite healthy. And I'm now at the very beginning of my business to see how I can start it. The product is ready, but somehow it needs to be taken to the market for the kind of, I need to basically do the market research. Around me, everybody loves it, but I need to see the real coming back to it to start it. So this is where I am. And on the 23rd, I'll be having a launching small kind of like tasting to see what people are going to like about this hot smoothie. All I like to say is that it is tasty, and it's kind of like a love first sip, at first sip.
Love at first sip. I love this.
Just before we hand over, a quick tip on that. Seema, I can see you in the audience from the wonderful research team. Could you stand up? Seema is one of the senior team there in the BIP Centre, so make sure you check out the BIP Centre because they can help you with all of that, right? I
Okay,
think we're ready to rock and roll.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so just once more, thank you for those who are logged in online. We just have a fireside chat with Martha Keefe and Charlie Bigham, and just want to say over to you. Thank you for your patience there, guys. Enjoy, everyone. Give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Right, so I'm absolutely thrilled to be here with Charlie Bigham of Charlie Bigham's fame. So I don't know whether you know this, Charlie sends out more than 600,000 of his prepared meals weekly. And this is a business that started many moons ago in the 90s at his kitchen table. So all these people in the audience saying, oh, I've only got a small business, I'm just starting now. This is just proof of what you can do. And so I think we're going to learn a whole load from him. So thank you so much for being here, Charlie.
Very lovely to be here. Thank you for
delight to
inviting
have you.
me.
And incredibly, we just found out chatting in the green room that Charlie actually used the services of a precursor to the BIPC when he was researching with Mintel reports in the early stages of his business.
Exactly. 30 years ago, I was tucked in a library somewhere actually. It was in central London. It was sort of Chancery Lane, neck of the woods. And yeah, I was reading Mintel reports to find out about an industry that I didn't know a lot about then. I've learnt a little bit over the last 28 years. But it's so lovely to see all you here today, and I know people joining online as well. And the British Library, it's a fantastic institution. It's a fantastic institution and repository of knowledge, which is freely available for all of us to go and tuck into. And I've definitely benefited from that. And I'm guessing that kind of everybody in the room today has probably already benefited, and everyone listening is either has benefited or is going to benefit.
What a full circle moment for you then,
Yeah,
Charlie. So
yeah.
I'd like to go back to the very start because a lot of people in the room are, as we've heard, at early stages of their business. So you had a previous life, a previous career as a management consultant, and then you decided to quit your job and go travelling, and you came back with an idea. I know for a lot of us, the idea comes from somewhere. I like to call it your why. What was your reason for deciding to do your own thing and start your own business?
Well, I think some of us are just not very good at working for other people. I don't know. Is anyone identifying with that? Okay. And I was one of those. I didn't really like being told what to do. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to be in charge of my own destiny, if you like. So I think I always knew I wanted to start a business. And then I love food. I loved buying food, eating food, cooking food, talking about food. It's the most fascinating area to be in. So somewhere along the way when I thought, gosh, I've got to start, I'm now ready to start up my own business, I had the lightning moment that it would be maybe a good idea to start a business in an area that I found interesting. And I do think that if anyone's sitting here thinking about starting a business, it's a good first checkpoint to say, is this something that you find interesting, you're passionate about? Because if you carry on doing it for a long time, it's really great. And I know, Martha, you're passionate about stationery. You've started an amazing stationery business. And doesn't it really help carry you through?
You really need that on those hard days. If you wake up and you believe in what you're doing, you've got that passion in your gut, I think that's a really good sense check to yourself. Is this going to burn fire in my belly for the next few years? I think it's a really good tip. And if we just go back to the start, Charlie, so a lot of us, that bit where you're starting out, you've left a job, you're surrounded by people, you've got a structure to your day, and suddenly you're there at home and you're thinking, wow, I'm going to try and build a business from scratch. And it can feel a bit isolating, a bit overwhelming. I know it probably feels like a long time ago to you now, but looking back at those early days where you thought, right, I'm going to set out, I'm going to try and do this. Do you have any tips from anyone in that kind of position or anything you wish you'd done differently in those early days to kind of get it off the ground?
I think, it is worth going into things, at least with your eyes half open, maybe not fully open because that might stop you doing it, but at least half open. Starting a business, it's not an easy ride. You will have tough moments, and I think some of the toughest moments are when you're all alone, and it's the very early days. You've got to be prepared to work incredibly hard, deal with quite a lot of setbacks and just pick yourself up and get on with it. So I think, be ready for some hard work. I think another really good thing to do early on is whatever anybody says who's launched a business that has been fortunate enough to be successful and still going a few years down the line, they've had a bit of luck. So I kind of probably, if you're going to start a business, decide you're going to be lucky. Because you're going to need a bit of luck. And if you recognise that earlier on and open yourselves up to going with the lucky breaks, it will actually really help.
I think coming to things like this where you make your own luck to some degree, but not fully. I know things can kind of happen for you, but coming to things like this where you can meet other people and make connections and create opportunities for yourself. I think I always say when you start a business, don't be an island. Just go out there, make as many connections as you can. You never quite know what can happen. I think one of the things, so you started out making dishes at home, you were selling them to independent food retailers in London, and then a few years into your business, you had this incredible lucky break where you got stocked in Waitrose. Was that always the plan, or how did that come about?
Well, actually, I did have a lucky break of getting stocked in Waitrose, but that sort of happened almost before I started the business. Before I started making any food, so it was very early on. And I was out. I think not being an island is really important. I wanted to make something that no one had really made before. This sort of really high quality, food first, pre-prepared food. And at the time, many moons ago, any food that was remotely convenient was full of rubbish. And I, as someone who cared about food, absolutely didn't want to buy it. So I brought some, kind of created this idea that was quite novel. And I think I had, my plan A was to sell this just to independent food shops. But I was out there talking to people, and someone said early on, Charlie, great idea, independent food shops, but not many people do their day-to-day shopping there. Your food is quite day-to-day, what you're proposing. You need to talk to the supermarkets, have a chat with the nice guys at Waitrose. They're a bit different. They're not a big, bad supermarket. You never know, they might give you a break. And so I just picked up the phone and rang the switchboard.
Wow.
And that's all kind of, you know, I think people get very intimidated about starting businesses, and you just shouldn't be intimidated. If you believe in your product, your service, yourself, you've just got to be prepared to get out there and pick up that phone, come along to an event like this, introduce yourself to people, whatever it might be. You know, there's no hanging back.
I love that. I always say, be cheeky. Like, you don't want, it's fine if someone else says no to you, but don't say no to yourself. And I think the fact that you, is it not, oh, sorry, is it my hair? Sorry, my hair gets everywhere. The fact that you pick the phone up to Waitrose, I think that's brilliant. I was talking to a couple of people earlier. I'm having a situation at the moment, people might know, follow my business, where I've got some scammers targeting our stationery advent calendar, and I decided I was just going to write to some journalists myself. And it's that thing of, you know, if you don't ask, you don't get. So, you know, kudos to you for approaching Waitrose, and really your business has kind of flourished from there. And I know that you just said that you were trying to do something a bit different to other businesses. So you say, you know, your food is not ready meals, but you're trying to go into the ready meals market. You're trying to create something prepared in a kitchen, not in a factory, that people could go home and cook in an oven. So you're essentially trying to disrupt a market that was already there. Did you find explaining that to people that what you were trying to do was quite different? And do you have any advice to anybody that's got an idea like this smoothie lady, where it's a bit different to what's out there at the moment, and how they might go about explaining that to people?
Yes, I mean, it's tricky. It's tricky when you know, to explain, even today, you know, nearly 30 years on, I struggle a bit sometimes when people say, but you make ready meals, don't you? And I say, no, I've never made a ready meal. I hate ready meals, in fact. I don't want that. I set up a business not to make ready meals, because a ready meal is generally something functional. You sort of, as soon as you buy a ready meal, you're kind of, it's about compromise, and it's about putting convenience over taste, and we're the very opposite to that. But it's tricky to explain to people, and then people say, well, what if it's not a ready meal, what do you call it? And people are desperate to have a label and put, you know, pigeonhole things. And I say, well, it's just delicious food. That's all it is, and we've just done a bit of the work. That's all. But it's hard. It doesn't make it easy. If you can be very, very clever and come up with the perfect phrase which everyone automatically understands and says, "Oh, I get it." That's great, but you can't always do that.
No.
You can't always do that. So then you just have to keep going.
Keep going, and I know you've been very good at this. I saw you did a bit of work a few years ago where you were campaigning against the microwave.
Yeah, microwaves. I mean, the great thing about microwaves, it's also quite useful. Again, you know, nip into the British Library, do a bit of research. And if you went and did some research about microwaves, what you'll find is 70% of people in this country own a microwave. Only 8% of people use it for cooking. Yeah, the most popular use of a microwave, number one, heating up a cup of cold coffee. Number two, defrosting something. And I think number three, and you'll know about this, heating up a baby's bottle.
I was just about to say that's what I use it for.
Very, very few people use a microwave for cooking. It's a terrible instrument for cooking. It's a terrible instrument. Yeah, you want to put food, if you have nice food, you want to put it in an oven. You want to apply heat to it, because that's where magic happens. That's where magic happens, and things bubble and smell and burn a bit, and, you know, it all like sort of a magical, there's a magical sort of transformation of ingredients into something you want to eat.
I love that you've tried to do something different with it, and I think one of the things that, I mean, I treat myself to one of Charlie's meals. The way that they come is very different to other prepared food. They either come in, you know, you've got these lovely wooden trays, haven't you, which are so iconic. Why did you decide to not just, you know, not obviously they're prepared differently, but why did you decide to kind of present them differently to what else is out there? Was there a story behind that?
Yes, I'm just going to get a little kind of feel. I know there are other people not in the room, but in the room, who's ever sort of seen our food or tried our food? I don't want. Okay, so quite a lot of people. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, we'll come back to that. We will come back to that, because I could talk for quite a long time on that point.
It's a treat, isn't it?
Yeah, No, it's just fantastic everyday food. We're going to come back to that point. I'm not going to be diverted at the moment because we're talking about wooden trays. Just so you know, most people who are doing prepared food put their food to sell it in a retail environment in either a plastic tray or perhaps a tinfoil container. That's your typical packaging. We looked at that and said, that doesn't really align with who we are. We're trying to do something which is a little bit more artisan. There's a little bit of craft involved. There's pride involved. We don't like this packaging. This is quite a long time ago. 15 years, 20 years ago, we said we really don't like plastic. We want to have nothing sold in plastic. And so I was kind of searching, well, what can we do? This is quite tricky. And then I looked at a sort of one of those moments of inspiration. I was looking at a piece of cheese I was eating. And who eats brie or camembert? Yeah. Brie and camembert. So you know brie and camembert comes in a lovely wooden box. So I thought, that's interesting, wooden packaging. I wonder if we could get that to work. So we tracked down the company in France that makes all those wooden cheese boxes. Went and had a chat with them, said, look, it's a bit weird this. We don't want to put our cheese, we don't make cheese, we make food, but we wonder if we might be able to make use of your packaging. You can work with us to design some packaging, not only that's beautiful and is made of wood and has all these notes of craft and pride and everything about them, but also, just to make it a bit more difficult, we can put it in an oven at 220 degrees. It's like, yeah, wood's quite flammable. Anyway, we work with them, brilliant, and now all of our food just about goes in wooden packaging. It's unbelievable. I mean, it knocks the socks off. We've done the scientific analysis, not us, independently done outside, done the scientific analysis, knock the spots off everything else available in terms of its environmental impact. So we do the full carbon analysis on it. And we've now got, I think, 350,000 trees growing in southwest France to make our packaging.
That's really good. What I love is that you've not been afraid to do something a bit differently. You know, I know you use British suppliers. You know, you really care about sustainability. Yeah. It means that the price is higher, but people buy it. People love it. You know, it's a very well-known brand. You know, the fastest-growing grocery brand in the UK. You know, this is work because Charlie's not compromised on his flavour, on his principles, on what he wants his brand to stand for. I think that's a really good lesson for us all, so it's really interesting. Talking about your brand, so one of the things I think is really recognisable about Charlie Bigham's is you go into the supermarket and you've got this gorgeous illustrated packaging, and I think the brand itself is really recognisable. How much do you think people choosing your food, people buying your food, brand versus food, because I always think part of it's the sausage and part of it's the sizzle. Like, how much do you think the brand has played a role in people recognising you in your business kind of growing? To me, I'm not a great brand expert person. I love food, and for me, the most important thing of all is the product. And I think every business absolutely must focus on the product or service that they're selling. And you've got to make sure you've got to be relentlessly dissatisfied with your product quality, your service quality, and you've got to sign up to making it better and better forever. You must never rest and say, oh, it's good enough now, because you will be in a competitive market, so you've got to make it better and better. So for me, the thing I get excited about is the quality of our food. The branding is our mechanism to communicate with consumers who perhaps haven't tried our food before or are coming back to it for a second time. And we work really, really hard on that. I've worked with a fantastic brand agency, now the same agency for 28 years. The guy who set it up and runs it is probably the #1 expert, definitely in this country, possibly in the world in food packaging. Great guy called Perry, who's become a great friend of mine. So finding good people to work with in the things that necessarily are not your skill set. My skill set is not marketing and packaging design. I'm interested in it, but it's not my skill set. That's something we all have to do in business, isn't it? Focus on what you do best. Yeah. Outsource the rest. Find out what is your unique value within your business. Yeah. And you focus on that, which for you is the food, and find brilliant people to do the other stuff. Yeah. So I think that's really interesting. But I think one thing that does stand out about Charlie Bigham's, which I think is similar to my business, my stationery business, is that you've used personal branding. So I think branding is really about the gut feeling you have about a business. And for a lot of us who choose to buy your meals again and again, or choose to go to a shop again and again, you have like a gut feeling about a business, which is why you choose them. And of course, the quality of the product is also really important. And you've been really clever at how you've used personal branding. So you've been the face of your business. Your business is obviously named after you. So people sort of get a feeling that it's a real person, and that allows them to kind of maybe connect with the brand quicker, which I think has been really interesting. And I know you've even appeared in your own TV ads. Was this a kind of conscious choice, or is it just something that's happened accidentally?
It was an accident. I mean, I didn't set out. So what I really wanted to do is have a brand with my name on, or a business with my name over the door. Early days, it's always a struggle when you start a business. It's actually one of the most difficult things is to come up with a name. So I thought, well, again, not my area of expertise. I'll outsource this to someone who knows. And I had a friend of a friend who was running a very successful, young, dynamic brand agency at the time, and I asked them and said, look, could you just do me a favour? I'm starting this business. I don't know what to call it. You guys are experts at this. Would you mind? I've only got 500 quid, but as a favour, could you do it? And so this guy, Will, very kindly said, yes, we'll do that. Delighted to help. And they went off and sat on bean bags for a couple of weeks. No, they did serious stuff, obviously, including sitting on beanbags, because that can be serious, and came up and then a couple of weeks later said, we've got it. We've got the name. It's fantastic. I said, great, what is it? How exciting. They said, well, your name, it's just brilliant, because if you split your name in half, there's big, which is really positive, and so that's fantastic. And then there's ham, and that's food, and so it's just the perfect name. So I was like, okay, fine, we'll go with it.
And don't worry if you've not had people sitting on beanbags deciding your name.
Yeah.
That's not an
but having said that, so that's how it started, and then Bigham's turned into Charlie Bigham's, and I think and that sort of what I've liked about it actually is I do think as consumers, and we're all consumers, we would prefer, if you're given a choice, you would rather buy something from a person than a corporation. I think that's just, we love that, and some people have identified that and they've made up people, so I do sometimes get asked if I'm real, which is a bit odd. But if there is somebody real behind the brand, I think they've kind of, their job, my job, is to have my consumers back, and I'm the champion of our consumers, our customers in our business. I'm not the only one, but I've got to lead the charge. I have the final sign off on any recipe. I've got a brilliant team of chefs who do all the hard work, but there is nothing that we will sell in our business that I haven't tasted and I've said, that's it. And it's very nice for me as the business has grown to have that final sign off. I very, very, very seldom have to have to make a call which other people don't agree with, but people know that I will if I think I have to.
And I think that's a really good point. And I think for small businesses here, you see big businesses trying to do this now. They like to pretend there's somebody there, like have someone who's the face of the business. But actually, as small businesses, we can do this much better way to big businesses. You can show up on social media, you can be present and really allow people to kind of form that connection with you. So I think it's great that your business still does that. I think it's fair to say over the last 28 years, the environment for starting a business in the UK has changed so much. And I think the last few years for people who've been running a business during this time has been really hard. We know unpredictable energy bills, cost of living crisis, soaring employment costs. How have you navigated this as a business, and have you found that's had an impact on you?
Well, I think if you're an entrepreneur, and I guess I am, I mean, I don't sort of, just that's what we are, isn't it? Because we've started businesses. You can't waste time in a woe is me space, Life is too short. If we just focused on all the things that were wrong, what would you do? So I just you have to put all that aside. There are always going to be barriers and hurdles and things that get put in your way, and you've just got to push them to one side and plough on. And so I'm not really, you know, I think we could look at today and say, gosh, well, it's much harder, you know, starting a business today than it was when I was fortunate enough to start up 28 years ago. It's got much more competitive, it's got, you know, more legislation, there's more rules, there's more, you know, we could go into that sort of space, or we could say, do you know, there is no better time to start a business than today. You know, if you think of all the positive changes that we've had, you know, what the internet has enabled, you know, how you can reach out to people, how you can have 70,000 followers, how you can, if you want to get in touch with someone, if you need help when you're starting your business and you think, God, I'd really like to talk to that person, you can find your way to that person now through, you know, through technology and through social networks. Those things weren't available before. You know, the amount of research you can find, I mean, you know, when I started, the British Library had something in a small way. I mean, look what you guys have done in the last 30 years in terms of up the amount of resource available and research that's now open and freely available. So I think it's much better to focus on the positives, because if you focus on the negatives, you're going to find a reason not to do something rather than a reason to do something. And I think life's a lot more interesting if you do stuff rather than don't do stuff.
Love that. And I think that, you know, starting a business, a lot of it is about the confidence to do it and, you know, going out there and giving it a go. And I think it is, look, there are a lot of things that are easy now. I think social media can create so many opportunities. The internet can create so many opportunities, as you say, to kind of connect with people. So I love that you know, have that attitude. Now, get your questions ready for Charlie, because this is not just me. I've got a couple more that I'm keen to ask him about, but if you're watching this remotely, if you're in the audience, start to get your thinking caps on. Talk about difficult things. I know something that's been really in the news at the moment, and a lot of kind of newspapers love to make a big deal about this, and I'm sure it's been something that's affected your audience, is the kind of increased awareness of ultra-processed foods. And people lump ready meals into that, and I know that you don't make ready meals, but have you found that that's been something that your customers are aware of, and how have you kind of handled that?
Yes, it's a really interesting one. Who's aware of ultra-processed foods as a term? Okay, yeah, it's a big thing. It's a big thing. And absolutely rightly, it should be a big thing, and I think it's going to be a bigger thing. And so ultra-processed food for a business like ours represents both a threat, and there'll be many instances this will happen to you. If in your businesses, it will represent both a threat and an opportunity simultaneously. So, you know, you can just bury your head and say, what do I do? But actually what you've got to do is you've got to engage. When these big things come along that are both threat and opportunity, you've got to face into them and deal with them. And so the threat to us is, you know, lots and lots of newspaper articles quite rightly being written about this topic. It's a topic which is relevant to all of us. And a lot of articles I've read will say, how to avoid ultra-processed food, don't eat ready meals. Now that's a threat because although we don't make ready meals, some people think we do. It's an opportunity because we don't make ready meals. You know, so we've got to kind of face into it. So we faced into it, and you know, I mean, what I'm delighted about, there's a great expert in this field. Some of you may have heard of. If you haven't yet, you will quite soon. So I think he's doing a big series on BBC. A guy called Chris von Tulliken. Anybody heard of him?
Yeah.
Yeah, great guy, really interesting scientist. Written the seminal work, I think, at the moment on this called Ultra-Processed People. And Chris, in his book, says when he's defining, well, what is ultra-processed food? Because it's kind of quite new, nobody really knows what it is. And Chris says, well, if it's in a packet and you look at the ingredients list and there's an ingredient you don't recognise and you haven't got in your store cupboard at home, it's probably ultra-processed food. Now, when I started my business 28 years ago, I kind of wrote down our values, if you like, our philosophy at the start. And what I wrote down 28 years ago was, before the term ultra-processed food had been invented, I wrote, what I am going to guarantee is I will never put anything in my food that I do not have in my store cupboard at home, or my fridge at home. So I've been aligned with ultra-processed food being a bad thing before ultra-processed food existed. So I've engaged with it. If you want to find out about the detail of where we are on ultra-processed food, you'll go and find 2 or 3 pages of stuff on our website explaining where we are. I've recently been talking to, there was a House of Lords Select Committee which spent a year looking into health and obesity and ultra-processed food, which I went and gave formal evidence to. You know, we're sort of all over it. We're engaging with it. We're challenging ourselves, you know, to make sure that not only do we not have ultra-processed foods in our business today, but as definitions perhaps change over time, you know, things that might be deemed okay today and may not be tomorrow, we are working on some of those ingredients as well. And I'm talking like pretty big ingredients like bread, you know. Bread, I think some people might, in 5 years' time, might say, do you know, the way we make our bread today, mass supermarket bread, is actually, you know, kind of goes into the realms of ultra-processed food and is potentially not very good for us.
I really like, though, the golden nugget in that, which is that with every threat, you can turn that into an opportunity. It's something that in your industry people are talking about, and if you're able to find a way to talk about that in a different way or do something differently within your business that actually can create something where, you know, you can actually create visibility for your brands. I think you've done that in a really good way. Now, I have to just mention, because I have Charlie has just published a book. We've got stuff with Charlie Bigham, Favourite Food for Family and Friends. So I'm sure you've had this idea in your head for a long time, but how did this come about? How did you become a published author?
I was first asked to write a recipe book about 20 years ago. I've taken my time because I wanted it to be a really good book. And I'm very proud to say it is a great book. It's got all of my favourite recipes in that I cook at home for my family, friends. We have a fun kitchen at home. I love food, I love cooking. So this book is kind of distilling all of that. Great recipes, really easy, simple, full of flavour. Few little tips in there how to do things to show off, useful at Christmas. Things can be scaled up. But no, I love cooking. Some people have said to me, why are you writing a recipe book, you know, to encourage people to cook when you want people to buy prepared food? I'm like, no, I don't. I want people to cook. I want people to enjoy and appreciate what good food is and understand the value of proper food. We're going to come back to that point you made in a moment, don't worry. But so this book is full of the joy of cooking, and you know, and we've got a few of our favourite recipes from work in there as well, about half a dozen of those. But some great recipes. It makes a fantastic Christmas present.
Had to give Charlie a chance to plug us, but he's actually really kindly given a couple and some food vouchers for the raffle that we're having, so definitely worth filling out those feedback forms, and you might get the chance to win one of those. So did you want to answer that lady's question? I thought that was a really interesting one, and then we'll get into wider questions if you're watching remotely.
Yeah, it's
Actually, before you start
yes.
something, I know the answer. It's just like having fun, because you just use the best ingredients and the best packaging, so it's just...
Well, yes, I think that's very nice for you to say so. Thank you very much. So the question for some of those who weren't hearing it was kind of, we get asked quite a lot. So why is your food so expensive? And, you know, I could buy, you know, we make a fish power lasagna, I could buy a cheaper one, you know, in the supermarket. Why do I want to pay for yours? And obviously it is because we tend to use better ingredients, and we tend to make our food in a way that isn't processed. So we make stuff a lot by hand in small batches. We are very, very careful with all of our suppliers. I know all of our suppliers. I go and visit them and spend time with them. So we really care. And then we package our food in a very careful, considered, environmentally friendly way. And we do lots of things in our business which are a little bit more expensive. We only buy all of our energy we buy is renewable, for example. Many things. But actually, the kind of, I think an important thing to say in this area is, so typically, a meal that we make for two people is £9.50. The main meal of the day is when it's usually eaten in the evening for most people. Now, you could go out and you could order a Domino's pizza for 1 to 2 people. I had a look on their website, and you will pay £16 for that. You might go out a different part of your day, and you might drop in at Costa Coffee, and you might have a cup of coffee and a bun for breakfast. Maybe some people did this morning. That would have cost you about £6. So, you know, we're below, our food is actually costs less than £5 a head for your main meal of the day. It's unbelievable value for money. unbelievable value for money. And what we all need to, and when you're thinking what to charge people for in your business, what you kind of have to focus on is value for money. And there's a really simple equation. It's price plus quality equals value for money. Never focus on price alone. Never focus on price alone. You're on a hiding to nothing if you're just interested in selling the cheapest. So we're very proud of our food. We're proud that it represents fantastic value for money. And we do know, we have about 1 million people eat our food every week. And people write to us. We get about 200 people writing to us every week. And people appreciate that our food is different and is worth that little bit more than perhaps the other one next to it on the shelf, and represents fantastic value compared to a takeaway going out to a restaurant. What you've paid for breakfast or for lunch, your sandwich or whatever it might be.
I think that's really good, because sometimes when people try and price their product, especially if you're new to market, it's really tempting to look at what else is in the category, but you have to look at pricing in different ways. And sometimes if you charge extra for a product, the perception of that price actually can help your product sell in a way. So I think that your product is brilliant, and I think that the pricing is spot on for what you're bringing. So we've got a little bit more of Charlie's time. So questions from anyone watching remotely and questions from the audience. Does anyone have any burning questions for Charlie about his journey? Anything you'd like to ask him, any insights, or his future maybe? The gentleman at the back here. Do you want to introduce yourself, say your name, say your business, and what your question is for Charlie?
Firstly, thanks for your time, Charlie, Martha. My name's Akib. I'm a co-founder at Money Circuit. We are a financial education business. So my question, and I guess it's in that theme of maybe being relentlessly dissatisfied and constantly, looking back at things maybe to improve. What one thing, and it could be for both of you, would you have maybe done sooner or done different to be even more successful with your business than you are today?
Do you want to go first on that one?
No, I'll let you go first.
Okay, I'll go first. So the secret to any business being successful is employing brilliant people. And what you need to do is you need to employ brilliant people before you can afford them. Somehow you've got to find a way always to be employing people who are more expensive to employ than you can afford. It's tricky. It's tricky, but you can do it.
I was actually going to say the same thing. I've got this thing of if you don't let go, you don't grow. And I think when you start out as a single-handed business owner and you are so passionate, you're relentlessly dissatisfied, you care about everything within your business, it's actually really hard to let go of stuff. But constantly challenging yourself about where your unique value is and what you can let go of really does help your business grow faster. And it's a really hard process to do. But I think obviously, Charlie, you've done that incredibly well. It's a really great question. Right, anybody else? Another gentleman at the back there.
Hi, myself is Nish, and I'm in the conceptual stage of starting a food business. So one of the questions I have for you is, before you start any startup, they say that your product should be 10x better than what's already out there. How did you convince yourself that your product was?
Well, the important thing, especially with food, but I'm sure it applies to other sectors as well, is you just got to find out what people think. So in food, it's quite easy. You make some food and you get people to taste it and give you some honest feedback. You start with your immediate circle of family, friends, whatever. What I always say is it's really important, if you will usually be going into a space where there's something, if not identical to what you do, at least similar, and you need to get people to taste the best that there is in the market, maybe the market leader, versus your version. And ideally you want people to taste that blind, so you don't want people to know which is yours and which is theirs. And then you just ask them for a bit of feedback on it. So I think getting people in the food sector, food, drinks, to taste stuff is absolutely invaluable. But I'm sure that applies, the same principle would apply in other sectors as well.
And I think one thing that I do think I'm really, really passionate about, and something I've been on a journey for this year, is that sometimes you can get so obsessed with an entrepreneur of your product being amazing, but actually you can improve over time. And I think part of what succeeding in a business is just continually getting stuff out there, you know, continually shipping your first blog post or your first product and then making it better over time. So my product didn't start perfectly in my product business, and maybe Charlie's did, but actually getting something out there, listening to the feedback of your customers, and then, you know, making it better over time. So I think some of us can stop and think, I don't think it's 10x yet, but you can get there if you keep pushing it. One question from people watching remotely from Emma has said, thank you, Charlie. Can you give some insight or advice on what you do when you get to a stage where you're outgrowing your home kitchen? I'm nowhere near that stage, but it's weighing on my mind.
Find another one. I mean, I think you know, if you start as we both did your business on your kitchen table at home, I think it's a really good way to start a business. Not the only way, but it's a good way. You know, you will quite quickly get to the point where you just need to move out and find somewhere else. And you've just got to embrace that. Of course, it comes with having all sorts of complications, but I mean, you're not going to well, I don't think you will run the business you want to run if you keep on running it just from your kitchen table.
Yeah, puts limits on things, doesn't it? Right, we got this. Do we want to come to this lady? We've got another lady here. Who's got a roaming mic? We've got a few. Challenge Anarcha again. Challenge Anarcha. This lady here.
Hello, my name is Wendy.
Hi, Wendy.
At the beginning of your talk, you mentioned that when you started your research 28 years ago into your novel idea, you mentioned Mintel. I'm interested to know how did you use the desk research? You know, what was it with this new idea in food that you was looking for when you went through the Mintel and other products, research products to, you know, what were the things that you was looking into?
Yeah, very good question. Thank you. I've got to cast my mind back quite a long way. But I think what's really interesting to do when you're starting any business is to try and work out if there's a market and what the rules of that market might be. And so if you go and read reports like Mintel, and there are other ones as well, but Mintel's pretty good. You know, so Mintel will produce a report, I believe, on the ready meals market. It will tell you how big that market is. It will tell you who's doing well in it, who's not doing so well in it, maybe even. It will give you some trends on the market. It will give you an idea whether the market's growing, what speed it's growing, which subsections of the market are growing. So it kind of really helps. It really helped me coming in as an outsider. I'd never worked in food before, to get a sense for my own purposes of, is this a business? Do I think there is a business to be started here? You know, can we create our little way of doing things, and is the market big enough? Is the opportunity big enough? It also, in our instance, when I then had to go and talk to retail partners like Waitrose, if you can show you understand your market, that then makes you a much more credible proposition to them. Because at the end of the day, you know, Waitrose isn't going to stock a product just because it tastes nice. They've got to believe they can sell it too.
I think that's a really good point. So, for example, for my business, when I started out in the stationery world, you could see that stationery as a whole was declining. Functional stationery, people aren't using it in the same way, but actually within that, personalised stationery, design-led stationery was really on the up. And if you are able to see that what you want to do is something that people are wanting right now, and how the market is changing, and if there's an opportunity there, not just it gives you the confidence, but if you're pitching to investors, if you're pitching to retailers, it allows people to see that there is the opportunity there and to be able to back you. So I think that's really, really good. Someone's asked a very difficult question remotely. I don't know whether, Charlie, you're interested to hear what you think. Say this. They said, thank you, Charlie. This is from Marcus. What was your worst challenge or darkest time in business, and how did you overcome that? What was the hardest thing?
Oh gosh, I mean, there've been lots of things along the way. You know, we had. I don't dwell on them too much. I kind of think you have to learn from them, move on. So, you know, people say, "Have you made mistakes?" I've made loads of mistakes. Learn from mistakes and move on. I mean, you know, because I've been in this, you know, doing this for a little while, there've been particular kind of moments of history which haven't been about our business, but have been about the great the economy. So the 2007-2008 financial crisis, that was a big moment. We had to make a large number of people redundant very quickly because the business was in fairly rapid growth, growing at 25% a year, and suddenly we went from 25% growth to 40% decline overnight. You have to be bold and make the tough decisions when that happens. And then obviously more recently, when COVID came along and disrupted the whole world, that was a very, very challenging time to be running a business, and we could not send people home on furlough to make food. We went into work every day. I was incredibly fortunate to have an extraordinary team of people who were, in some instances prepared to risk everything by coming into work and making food. And that was a tough time. In those early days of COVID, it was not easy. We were all scared. We were all scared. And I think we should all be grateful. And I know there's been lots of stuff talked about this, but for actually the 30-40% of hardworking people who didn't have the option of working from home, but had to go into work every day, and the whole food sector was part of that group of people.
And anyone in manufacturing as well. In my business as well, it was a really scary time.
So there have been some tough times, but you have to adapt when those come along, and there can be pretty surprising things happen. But I think what you do need to have the whole time is you have to say, what are our values? And something I always recommend people to do very early on, we did it after about 3 years, write down your values. And write down your values, talk about your values. Because then when things get difficult, you've kind of got this reference point. You don't actually have to get it out and read it because you've been talking about it and everybody's signed up to it. But those are your guiding light in times of difficulty.
I love that. We've got an acronym in my business to remember our values. Derek.
Yeah, we've had one before. We haven't got one now.
I love it.
It's good to have an acronym.
I think it's really good, and being able to, it helps your customer as well if you're able to articulate what you stand for as a brand. I think that's a really, really good tip. Let's have one more question from the audience before we close this off. I know lots of people are desperate to ask something, and then I know we're coming to the end of the session, so. Oh, where are we? Oh, back there. Oh, Bridie, you're standing up already. I couldn't see you.
That's all right. Thank you so much for your talk and sharing your insights. So my name is Ruth Fisher. I am in the concept stage of starting a business consultancy service. I guess my question really is around the beginning of your business. Did you bootstrap your concept, your idea, your business, or did you seek for investors early on? And if so, at what stage did you determine that you needed to have investors in order to scale?
Yeah, good question. I always say, I talk to a lot of people who want to start up businesses, and it's one of the early choices you have to make, whether you're going to fund it for yourself, bootstrap it, is a term sometimes used, or whether you go and seek external investment. There isn't a right or wrong answer. It depends on you. It depends, on the sector, what you're doing. It also, what I suggest people do is they think quite carefully about the long-term goal. So I've started a business I'm very proud of. My intention is that this business is going to be around for the long term. It's going to be a business that outlives me, fingers crossed. And so if you're going off on that journey, which is a harder one perhaps, but I think ultimately a more rewarding one, then having external investors is quite tricky because guess what? External investors want to come in, but as soon as they come in, they want to see what the path is to get out. And that means usually selling the business. So it's worth thinking about. I think if with external investors you can perhaps build faster, and it's really lovely can be really lovely if you've got the right external investors having some advice. But yeah, I think some people like me choose to kind of go it alone. And it may be a bit tougher, but I think ultimately more rewarding.
So you've got no investment in your business. You've done it all yourself.
No.
Wow, that's brilliant. And if you are interested in different sources of funding for your business, the BIPC is a brilliant source of information for that. And I know we did a bit of crowdfunding. We've got some of our community that are invested in our business, not a huge amount, but that really made a difference to us. Thank you, Charlie. That has been fascinating. I just want to leave on one thing. So I started another business this year, Business Secrets Club, to kind of help people with the secrets of starting a business, the things that maybe you don't know when you start out. So let's leave the audience with maybe one tip from you as to something you wish you'd known for the start, or like one really good bit of advice to the entrepreneurs in this room.
I'm going to replay another piece of advice that I heard someone else give, because I thought it was so good. It kind of sums up what starting a business is about. There's a guy called Coran Billamuria who set up a business called Cobra Beer. Anybody know about Cobra Beer?
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He does amazing work now. He's in the House of Lords now, and he does lots of extraordinary stuff there. But Coran, I heard once say, when asked this question, is the secret when you start a business is to never give up, but to know when to give up. It's a little bit cryptic, but think about that one. I've thought about it since he said it, and I kind of thought, yeah, that's a really clever thing. He's a clever man, Coran. It's a clever piece of advice.
It's a great note to end on. Thank you so much to Charlie.
Thank you so much, Martha, and to you both. Wow, wonderful. Just want to say thank you. Wasn't Martha just the perfect fireside host? Can we give her a round of applause?
Oh.
And Charlie, inspiring, charming, wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today.